This is Matthew McConaughey,
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson,
Michael Ian Black,
and you are listening to
Five questions
with Dan
Schawbel.
Jesse, welcome to Five Questions.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it, man.
What were some of the negative implications of being a big pop star at such a young age?
I think for me, the biggest thing is grappling with missing dances, which, obviously years later you look back and you're like, how insignificant, but at the time it's very real, for you as a child, missing things like graduations. Although I made mine, I barely made it, and I didn't get to go to my senior year of high school. I didn't get to be with my class that I grew up with since kindergarten in New York. I was in Los Angeles working with a tutor in a trailer, and it just wasn't, a memorable experience. So I think just missing the little things, especially when you grow up with them and then you're thrown into this world, in this career, it's hard to look back. I mean, it's easy now to look back, but I remember then thinking like, this is terrible. I'm not going to go to my junior prom or my senior prom. And so I think those moments are kind of sting when you're 16, but I certainly wouldn't trade it. I think it was a fair trade-off overall.
Yeah. I mean, we're only looking back in hindsight now, and a lot of childhood stars have to make those sacrifices in order to capitalize on their momentum and talents when they're young, because now people know who you are. So if you release music, it's more likely to get downloads rather than someone who has not put in the years when they're a kid. And you started at such a young age, at 7 years old. So that definitely gives you an advantage. And I see this common with a lot of stars that start off early and get seen and then continue to grow, but a lot fizzle out, and you haven't. So congratulations on that.
Well, I appreciate it. I remember taking my SAT exam and coming out of the building and thinking, damn, I don't feel good about my math. And I turned on the radio, and it was just 3 months or 3 weeks, after I had released Beautiful Soul. And it was on Z100 in New York, and it was on the radio. And I just remember thinking like, whatever, like if the math doesn't work out, I got a song on the radio. It was just like a big home run moment for me. And I just remember thinking like, whatever, if I missed my senior prom, if I didn't do well on the SAT, like I'm in a good direction at least, so.
Yeah. And you were saying like all the little things that mattered, like, going and doing some of these childhood things like prom and whatnot. But it's also these little things that don't really matter, like the SATs, but in the moment we think they are the most important thing.
Huge. Yeah, for sure. I mean, things are titanic when you're that age,
What obstacles did you encounter as you transitioned from being in a boy band to your own solo career, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest thing was sort of carrying the load, on your own at that point. And I was very young, and I also just missed having those guys around. I really, the guys from Dream Street were best friends of mine, and it was in a concentrated amount of time. It was only like 2.5 years, but we were together every single day. And when you're 13, 14, 2 years of your life is eternity, and, I think that's, for me, the biggest thing was hurdling the fact that I was doing it now by myself on stage and carrying the show. But also it was after a time where things were a little contentious between myself or the band and the producers. And that's kind of when I learned what the industry was going to be and what it was about. And that it wasn't just getting up on stage and singing, that there was a business behind it. I sort of learned all of the negative aspects of the music industry.
Show business.
Showbiz, exactly. That's kind of where I learned, sort of cut my teeth and learned what it was all about. So at that point, I think it was harder because now I understood, oh, it's about this, it's about money. And at that point, it sort of took a different turn, and I realized it was more of a business. But that's not to say that I didn't still enjoy it, and I didn't get, a full, it was still super joyful for me at that time. And when Beautiful Soul came out a couple years later, I just remember thinking like, this is still like the best thing I could ever possibly imagine doing. And, overall, I have great feelings about that time, but it was definitely a transitional period. And it was a moment thinking like, oh man, there's nobody up here to back me up. Like I'm out here by myself. But yeah.
Yeah, anything goes wrong, you can't start pointing fingers at anyone else,
Exactly.
right? It's all on you.
It's all on me.
But it's also like you left a family, right? A family that supported you and that you enjoyed being around, which is not always the case when you talk to a lot of, people in boy bands and groups. It's sometimes it fizzles out and people don't get along, and I mean, sometimes they get lucky and they reform that group later in life, but for you, it just seemed natural to have that type of progression, and it allowed you to mature. And obviously learning a lot about business in the entertainment world is critical, and something that I think that every entertainer should learn even before they somehow get into it, right? Because it can save you a lot of time. It can help for, better decisions. But there is this interesting conflict between being creative and being a business person as well. And not everyone has both. So it's good that you were able to acquire those skills.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I mean, I learned a lot very young, probably more than I wanted to, I just wanted to really get up and sing on stage. At the end of the day, Dan, for me, it was like, I just want to make people happy, like all the complicated stuff comes in and then you're like, oh, and it was a bit of a bummer, but no, it definitely prepared me for, for understanding what was to come. And I'm very thankful for those life lessons. And by the way, I still keep in touch with all the guys. Unfortunately, one of them just passed away last year because of COVID. It was brutal and terrible. And we had a little bit of a reunion, and we did like this big Zoom reunion. But since that day, we talk almost every week. We actually have a group chat, just the four of us. And we text each other often, and we vowed that we would keep in touch and, never lose sight of where we came from. And it's really nice to reflect on that.
Yeah, sorry for your loss.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome though, that you keep in touch, and it's been such a long time too. So
it's great. Yeah, it's really nice. And it's nice to sort of reflect on those times and look back and think like, we were touring with Britney Spears, have moments like that. So it was cool.
How has your creative process changed between the time when you were a teenager and right now?
I think I just know more things. Like I just have more knowledge, I think as you get older, you get wiser. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. And I think for me, as somebody who is developed as a writer, somebody who wasn't a great writer when I was 16, I didn't write Beautiful Soul. I didn't write a lot of those songs on that first album. And I wrote a couple, and I remember thinking like, these songs are okay, but they're not great. And I wanted to be a good writer. It's something I strived to do, and I wrote every day, and I worked with people that were better than me all the time. And it's something that I grew into. But I think, as you get older, you're more traveled, you've been in more relationships, you understand the dynamics of human interaction and what that's like. And it makes for just better songwriting, it makes for more honest songwriting. And I think now I just have a much better scope than I did when I was 16. I understand the ways of the world, and I've had a lot of experiences. And at 16, you can't possibly know any of these things, and I was a good singer, but I was not a great writer, and I certainly didn't have anything to talk about. I was just like this normal kid out of high school in New York, and just wanted to get on stage with a microphone, but I certainly didn't have any input or anything to, that I could speak to. And now, things have completely changed. And so it's nice. And I think it's a natural evolution, but yeah, it's nice being 34. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, more mature, and you're not dealing with a lot of things that you probably had to deal with when you were younger. And you're releasing your first album in 7 years, and so I think part of the creativity that you have and how you've matured as an audit, as an artist, is that you have had some time apart from music. How have you spent this time reflecting, and how did this inspire all your new music?
Well, I think it's it'd be unfair to talk about this album if I didn't talk about my fiance and my future wife, who I'm marrying next month. She was certainly a huge muse for this project, and we've been together for well, man, 9 years, I think, at this point. I mean, we got engaged after 7, and she's just she's my best friend, and she's just a great person, and easy to write about, and certainly influenced a lot of the music on this project. And I think that for me, time sort of needs to happen in between projects. You need to allow space and time to sort of grow and to sort of have life happen for you to be able to talk about things that are interesting, if that makes sense.
Well, it's just rare. It's not even that it makes sense. It's like we live in a world of instant gratification. When's the next song coming out?
Totally.
What's going on right now? Like, no one has any patience for anything.
Yeah.
You've talked a lot about like social media and like some of the comments that you've had about your
Yeah.
relationship. Like people just want things immediately and have no patience at all. Yet what you're saying right now is that you were willing to take a step back and focus on your relationship and let that inspire a lot of your new music.
Well, I just don't work well when I have to work quickly. It's just something I know about myself as a person. I'm just not a fast paced person in general. I'm very laid back, and I like to really, tailor something before I put it out there. And I don't think it's getting any faster as I get older. Like I think I'm just really about making sure the product is what I want it to be before I put it out. And you're right. I mean, we live in a world where you cannot satiate the audience fast enough. They want, and I'm new to TikTok. I got on TikTok last year, and it's a totally different world that we live in. And I'm all about like showing what I had for lunch on Instagram or whatever. I'm all about it. But when it comes to the actual music, I think it's important for me to slow things down and really make sure that it is what I want it to be. And like I said, to allow time and life to happen around me before I decide to start writing about it. And I think it just makes for better songwriting. So maybe won't wait 7 more years for another project, but needless to say, like, I want to travel after this project. Katie and I want to go do a lot of things together and work on other things before I put out another album. And I think the next album will be better because of it.
I agree. Yeah, I think that in a world where there's so much fragmentation, there's so much content being published every second, that quality is going to triumph, especially
Yeah.
quality, consistently over time. So I think that's the right way to go. And fortunate for you, you're laid back. Like not every musician is chilling right now and with
Right.
a Hawaiian shirt on. But I think more should, right? I think the Hawaiian shirt and probably mimics your personality pretty well. Like
Totally.
kind of relax, trying to put out really good stuff that people are going to remember because you're putting out stuff and you're being judged on it. And it's like a reflection of everything that you've done over 7 years. And you want to follow up to Beautiful Soul in some of your early works that were such big hits. So there is some pressure, but it's also you're not rushing into it. Whereas a lot of people are like, we got to get the next hit because, people in the music industry, you're like, you have to feed their other people's mouths too, managers, publicists, all these different people that surround you. So it's a very mature move to do that, to take a step back before you take 2 steps forward. And what's your best piece of career advice?
My best piece of career advice. Okay, so especially for young people, this is for all the young people out there who really want a career in music or want to be a big star as an actor or whatever it is. Like, I think the biggest piece of advice is to have people around you that will tell you no, to surround yourself with people that will say, don't do that. You're being an asshole. Because that's what saved me. I mean, that's like the thing in my career, at least. And I've had a pretty illustrious, time. And I've had a moment where I've never had a moment where it was really bad. I've had a couple hiccups, but I've never had anything really bad, knock on wood. And it's only because I had a group of people around me that were constantly saying, like, look, if you do this, probably not a good idea. And look, you're going to be young and you're going to be dumb and you're going to make mistakes. But I think if you're really about being successful and having a career in this industry and having any sort of longevity, I think it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to be your be your guardrails to say, like, look, you're drifting left or you're drifting right, like, and keep you in the lane that you want to be in. And I've
Yeah, it's
seen
like find people who view you as a human being instead of a product.
totally, and I've seen it happen so many times with people that who we all know that I've grown up with over the years, and it's unfortunate, but I know for a fact that it's because of the people that were surrounding them, that the people that were around them were just not great, and you are who you hang with. It's a cliche, but it's true. So my piece of advice is, you want a career, great, but just make sure that you have somewhat of a moral compass walking in, and B, that you have people that also have that compass and the same compass that reads true north before you jump in. And that would be my piece of advice.
That's great advice, and thank you so much for being on the show, Jesse.
Anytime, Dan. Thank you so much for having me.